with 2 minutes to go.
I see the flash.
With 2 minutes to go.
You're just echoed there. Have you got your sound on?
No.
I don't have my sound on at all.
No.
Trailers will be going out in a minute.
Oh, it's just laughing. You're looking at sort of 10 seconds.
Live. Hello and good evening everybody, and welcome to VT Talk. Tonight, as you can see, I've got my guests in jail, just where they belong. I've got no Gary Dibley, I'm afraid, tonight. He's not very well. He's got a bit of a chest infection, so he's a bit poorly. So you're stuck with moi, the wonderful Mighty Mouse, who's over there behind bars where he belongs. And we've actually got Sav in shot. And she's going to be directing the questions over to me. So it's going to be a fun night. Do you like me, jail?
Let me out.
Hope you can all hear well and it's all going okay for you guys out there. I'm sorry about Gary, but he's not well at all. He's coughing, spluttering, and he doesn't want to do that all over you guys. I think it's slightly more than man flu, bless him. But let's hope he feels fine. And Steve Mack, was that my vapor trail at the beginning? Aye, it was. Sometimes I do actually breathe out some vapor. Not very often though. Anyway, have we any questions to start tonight's proceedings, Sav?
Oh, we have. I have a few questions that were sent in after last week's show. Unfortunately, I didn't write down the name of the people that sent them in.
It happens.
So it does. So we'll start off with one of them, which is from a newbie, which says, for a noob, what is the best to start with, an auto or a manual battery, or does it not make any difference?
Well, Michael, what do you think about that one?
Well, when I first started, it was with a auto battery, and eventually I got in a 510 manual battery, and I would say personally for me, the manual battery worked better because I could actually turn it off and on with my finger instead of relying on an inhale for the activation of the battery. So both of them actually work really well. But I would say a manual battery with a button is what you're going to want to get.
I would agree with you. The only time I think an auto comes in handy is if you're driving. They can be quite handy, you know, if you're sitting in a car and trying to remember to place the button. So it's a matter of personal choice, really, isn't it? I mean, I started with autos, as did you, Sav, didn't you?
Yes. But very quickly moved on to manual.
Yeah. when the manuals first came out, I thought, no, I like this. I feel I'm more in control, you know, than I did with the auto. So I would agree with Michael there, who's searching through his tackle box as we speak, and probably dropping it on the floor.
Yeah, you can see the difference between the auto battery and the, let me get a better light on it, on the manual battery. They're basically almost the same size. The manual's a little bit shorter, but you do have the button on there.
Yeah.
See, Rusty in chat is saying he needed an auto to mimic smoking.
Yeah.
Which I can understand when you first start off, because obviously you don't push a button on a cigarette. But I very, very quickly moved on from an auto.
But the autos that we started with would stick.
Yeah.
Or they would react to noise.
Yeah.
And that used to be a bit of a nightmare. And then you had the fact of juice, you know, that would seep into some of the batteries.
Yeah.
And cause them to shorten out, which was a nightmare. So I suppose the more I'm talking and the more I'm listening to you guys, the more I'm saying start with an auto. With a manual, sorry.
I mean, the autos have improved a lot since
Yeah.
then, but I've never gone back to an auto, so I couldn't really comment on what they're like now.
Well, I'm going to, because you know the is it the Excel that Jacko Vapor sells, which is doing really, really well. It's selling really, really well. The sports kit, and then he's going on to another one. And I've seen one that Toby at iVapor's going to be selling. And I love the look of it. And it's an auto. And Toby said to me, are you sure you want one of these? Because it'll be auto. And I thought, But yeah, you're right. You know, it's 2 years since I've used an auto battery.
Yeah, and I mean, reading chat, people are saying autos are much better now. But Del Boy has pointed out the problem with a noob and an auto battery is that they will get juice in the battery, which was the exact problem we had 2 years ago.
Yes. Yes.
And don't forget the third classification is the automatic shutoff battery too. So if you're new to vaping and you want to get a hold of some equipment, call your vendor and ask them exactly what type of battery is it. Is it an automatic? Is it a manual? And is it an auto shutoff? And will those auto shutoffs shut off after what, 5 seconds?
Yeah, a lot of them do.
Yeah, I mean, it varies, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It used to be a problem I had because some of them would have an awfully short shut-off point, and I like to take long, deep draws. God, it's a good job this is a vaping channel. Some of the terminology we use could really be misunderstood, couldn't it, when I'm talking about me long, deep draws.
Yeah.
But I used to find it a nightmare when these things stopped, you know.
Yeah.
And then when the Janty stick came along, that had a 12-second cut off, and it was like all my birthdays had come at once, you know. No wonder
Yes,
I was
I
a great
remember.
fan of the Janty stick.
Yeah.
And it seems to be this auto cut-off seems to be a thing of the past now. I seem to be able to draw to me heart's content or me lungs' content.
Yeah.
So I think we've
Pretty
answered
much.
that one pretty much, haven't we?
Yeah.
So,
And the next question is similar in a way because it's, again, I didn't take the name of the person that sent it, but it says, for my first e-cig, I bought a KR808. I'm getting a harsh throat hit whilst vaping, harsh enough to make me cough sometimes. My fiance tried it and coughed instantaneously, even after I told her to draw very slowly. I did some reading this morning and everyone says that you cannot smoke it like an analog and that you have to inhale slowly and for a prolonged time. I'm following this advice to the best of my ability and I still get the harshness from it. Is this how it's supposed to be?
no. Mighty Mouse, what do you think?
Well, I do recognize that even smokers, when I allow them to try my electronic cigarette, will cough, and I think that's true with everyone. Even Andy had one of his fellow coworkers try it on video, and he coughed tremendously. And I don't know why the vapor is a lot stronger than cigarette smoke, but if you're having problems with too much throat hit, you may want to change the ohms on the cartomizer or whatever you're using. Rhonda, my girlfriend, she likes a lot softer throat hit, so she goes for the 2 ohm cartomizer than she would with the 1.5. But is there a difference in the nicotine levels also, Kat? You're a juice person.
Yeah.
Does that contribute to throat hit also?
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, we've always said from day one that there are three main ingredients to a throat hit. A good fully charged battery, a good atomizer or cartomizer, whatever it may be. It was atomizer in those days. A new atomizer, new battery, and the strength of juice that you use. The higher the strength, the more it's going to hit you. You know, and those are the three things, aren't there? So somebody new to vaping, the chances are they've got brand new equipment. And that brand new equipment combined with the different things that you're inhaling in, because it's not the same as smoke. It's a different consistency altogether. And it's going to be totally alien to the lungs. And the first thing they're going to do is reject it. You know, they're going to go, I'm not having this. And you get used to it. But I expect every single person, every single one who has tried, you know, an e-cig that I've given it to, nearly always cough and splutter. And the only exception was Tracy.
Yeah.
When I went to the shop and gave her first one, and she was straight in there, and I thought, I'm waiting for her to cough, and she didn't, you know.
No.
But everybody else has. And I mean, my hubby, bless him, he's gone back to smoking to a degree, but he uses his e-cig as well, so he doesn't smoke the amount he did. And every time he picks that e-cig up, he coughs. Every single time. You know, and that's for 2 years he's been doing that. So it is a common problem, and it's, to me, it's nothing to worry about. Your body adjusts. And you've got to think as well, though, that you've got the after effects of smoking as well. That contributes to a lot of new people, you know, as to why they cough. So I think we've covered that one, have we? Anybody else got any to add?
No,
Well,
it leads.
I did want to
Sorry,
add
carry on.
one more. I did want to add one more thing. If you are extremely new to vaping, monitor your health. I was extremely surprised after about vaping for 10 months that my blood pressure had dropped down 20 points.
Yeah.
And I'm actually have the same blood pressure as when I was 18. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not making any medical claims. I'm just saying monitor yourself so you can gear what you're experiencing. I've lost 60 pounds since I've started vaping. Now, I don't know if that's because I'm not driving a truck cross country anymore or if it's from the vaping, but I do know my blood pressure has dropped. And I think even True Love out of the Bronx in New York had stated that his doctor said he had gained 30% of his lung mass back. So there are extreme advantages to vaping. The only thing is you have to try to tweak what's your favorite vape, and that's the battery and that's the juice, and what type of delivery system you're using, a cartomizer or a tank or whatever. So if you're new to vaping, welcome. If you've been here for a while, I'm not going to say welcome.
Right, we got another question there, Sam?
Yeah, this one leads in nicely. It's a question from Put Put, who says, "What do you think of Trog's experiment?"
I don't think Mighty Mouse knows about this, do you?
No, I sure don't.
Right, well, Trog is a vendor, as you may know, who is the inventor and seller, shall we say, of the screwdriver. And Trog loves to be controversial on forums. He can't help himself. And he got into a little bit of a contretemps, shall we say, a bit of an argument with some of the forum members who were trying to establish what was the norm in the amount of juice people vape a day. And I believe Trog said it was 2 to 3 mils was the norm. And that caused a bit of an argument to break out. Anyway, it went on from there that Trog decided to try and prove how much nicotine was in a cigarette. So to do that, he's been working out the amount of nicotine compared to the amount of milligrams of nicotine in juice, etc. And he's decided to try to go back to Rollies for 3 days. Because in theory, you should only be smoking 3 Rollies a day. I think is how he worked it out. The last I saw, he was up to 5 in the first hour. I think, I mean, I'm a big fan of Trog. I always have been. He makes me laugh. He really does. And he's so controversial at times. But he's absolutely brilliant at getting a debate going. He does it time and time again. And I'm perfectly aware he knows exactly what he's doing, you know. So let him have his experiment. I think after 2.5 years, he's going to find that cigarettes haven't got a hold on him anymore. And I think he's already finding that he's missing his Fluke Cured, isn't it, that Trog uses? I think he's missing his Fluke Cured now, and he's wanting to go back. And I did actually post on that thread and said, well, I don't know how you could smoke cigarettes all day. I mean, I admit, and everybody in the chat knows this, I have a cigarette every day. You know, I like my cigarette in the morning. And the beauty of that cigarette, it doesn't affect me at all. The beauty of it is it keeps me happy all day. And I don't complain about the smell of other people's smoke. I can tolerate it. I have to. You know, Ron has the occasional time. But I'm happy to say that cigarettes are no longer ruling me. Now I rule them. I will have a cigarette if I want to, and fine. I actually would miss my flavours much more than I would miss the soapy taste that a cigarette leaves you with, because it does. It tends to leave you with a horrible taste, and that's the chemicals. We all know that, you know. So, what do I think about Trog doing it? Get in there, lad. You know. I'd absolutely love, and I know he won't agree to it, but I'd love Trog to come on Vapor Trails. I'd love to have him on VT Talk. He's such a character, you know, and I've followed his controversial posts for, you know, a couple of years now. It was one of the things that kept me amused back in the beginning when I first joined ECF, and Trog was busy arguing. I think that post went on for about 3 or 4 months, didn't it?
Was that with Imio?
With Imio, the two of them arguing like hell, and it was absolutely brilliant reading, wasn't it? Every day I just sat there and I laughed like hell, and I ended up with the greatest respect for both of them, you know. Through all that, it was just a marvellous entertainment. Trog's never stopped entertaining me ever since. Absolutely love him.
I think going back to the the issue about how much you vape, I don't think you can really compare it to smoking. And the one reason is that when you have an electronic cigarette, it doesn't go out. You know, when I first started vaping, I was vaping on this thing nonstop, you know, this little auto cig that I had. And the batteries weren't lasting more than maybe an hour or two, and the cartomizers weren't lasting. And that's one thing you have to get used to. Now, in September, it's going to be a year. I'll vape maybe a few good strong tokes every 5 minutes, and I have adjusted my vaping. But if you're going to say, well, if you get 2 milliliters of juice, how does that compare to how many cigarettes? I really can't compare it. I don't think so. It's just, what do you enjoy? I think that would be a fair comparison. Do you enjoy the flavors in the vaping, or do you enjoy the one flavor of a cigarette and all the chemicals and all that and the feeling it gives you? So I think that would be more of a fair assessment to try to compare the two on what makes you feel better than, you know, do I go through 2 mils a day? Well, if a dual coil cartomizer holds 1.8 milliliters and you're filling it 3 times a day, I would say you're going through at least 3 mils a day, you know, unless you're like Hi-Fi and you go through that in an hour, you know.
But a lot of it depends, and I mean, this is something that so many people don't take into consideration. It depends on the device you're using as well, as to how much you vape. It depends how much that leaks, as to how much goes missing, you know, because it can vary. You know, I mean, I filled that up, the GG. If I use the GG, I'll be lucky if I go through, well, that tank will hold about 5 mil, right? And that will last me a week in that. But I can go through the same amount in a DCC in a day. But it doesn't mean, you know, I'm getting any less or any more. It's the weirdest thing, and I can't really explain it, but it is the weirdest thing. There is no consistency to it. But one thing I can say for absolute certain, if you light a cigarette, right, instead of vaping, and say I'm busy and I lit a cigarette and the phone rings, so you put the cigarette down and you go and answer the phone, right? And that's the end of it. You then see a great big trail of ash in an ashtray. And on the price of cigarettes these days, that's an awful lot of money wasted. That never happens with these. You pick them up, you put them down. Simple as. And of course, there's the other thing which we haven't mentioned, we can bring into that same discussion, is the strength of juice you use.
Yeah. I mean, I can go one day I may use 2 ml of juice, next day I may use 6. I'm so inconsistent, and I change the strength, not by a lot. Sometimes it'll be 10, sometimes it'll be 18 maximum, and it just depends on how I'm feeling that day as well.
Yeah, and it depends if I've made up your juice for you.
Yeah, I'm not vaping any of that.
Because I'm blind as a bat, and I frequently go by memory, and my memory's not wonderful. And I mean, I tend to vape 18, and I vaped 8 milligrams for a month because I didn't realise I'd made it up wrong. So I prefer to be a constant vapor. I actually enjoy vaping, as to being somebody that vapes and then puts the e-cig down for half an hour, which I would be if I was a 36 vapor. You know, and it evens up. You know, a 36 vapor tends to be able to put it down for longer. An 8 milligram doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So,
at the end of the day, just use what's right for you.
yeah.
There isn't a wrong or a right. You just, if you want it in your mouth permanently, great. If you put it down, wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody knows all through a show I vape. You know, that's me. And I used to do the same when I was a smoker or a full-time smoker, smoke cigarettes. If I was having a conversation with anybody, I smoke. And because I'm sitting here having a conversation with you guys, or everybody, the chat room and with you, I vape.
Well, I vape much more than I smoke, because when I smoked, I didn't smoke in the house, I didn't smoke in the car. So I used to have to go and stand at the back door if I wanted to smoke, whereas now I can vape in the house and it's always in my hand.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. Brilliant.
There you go. So it's the Trog fan club, right now.
Yes.
Still love the guy, love him to bits. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Okay, next question, sir.
Right, the next question is from Seabiscuit, who says, do you think I got the fact across that the unit I was looking at in the video yesterday was a box mod?
I had a feeling that was going.
Is that what that was?
I'm not sure. Maybe he could have said it a bit more times.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it was a box mod.
No. I think you need to work on that a little bit, you know, and maybe mention it a few more times, just in case somebody didn't get, you know, didn't understand.
Yeah, we just need to make sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask Seabiscuit if he uses a straight razor or disposable on his head. I mean, that's a nice, clean shaved head there.
But a beautiful accent. He's definitely got the most beautiful accent. Love to listen to him.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, Sav.
Next one is from Put and it's a question for Mighty Mouse. It says, has the reclassification of e-cigs as tobacco products started to have an impact over there yet?
Well, that's funny you should ask. I actually have an interview coming up with a major vendor out in California that actually joined Vapor Trails TV on a round table discussion, and I had started the interview with that exact same question. And there really hasn't been any changes. I sat in on a CASA meeting, and I went to a FDA meeting that they had on nicotine, and it really doesn't seem like they've got their sights set on electronic cigarettes at the moment. Most vendors right now are using programs that if you log on to their website, it protects them against underage smokers from logging on to their website. He has actually gotten a tobacco license, so if they reclassify e-cigs under the new tobacco law 2009, that he's prepared for that. But as far as any restrictions selling e-cigs on the internet or e-juice, there really hasn't been any. It's been extremely quiet over here. I don't know exactly what's going on, but one day the bubble's going to pop, and then we'll just have to go from there.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit like that all the time, isn't it? We never know what's coming next. It's like sit and wait. And I mean, I check the news bulletins all the time, and you know, there's one circulating at the moment where they're saying that what we're doing, what vapors are doing, is more dangerous than when they smoked. And I thought, oh, what nonsense, you know. Who is saying this? Who's, you know? And these sort of things are circulating all the time, and it is worrying, isn't it? It's worrying.
Well, I tell you, the one thing I did find out about sitting in on the CASA meeting is that they are in direct contact with Sam and Rolligate of ECCA,
yeah,
and they are working together. So I wouldn't say it's a joint coalition, but they are aware of each other, and they are working closely together. I know there's a gentleman, I forget what organizations he's with, Dr. Carl Phillips,
yes,
which will be flying to Turkey to talk to them about electronic cigarettes. I think Turkey's interested in some type of legislation. I don't know exactly what it is, but anyways, like I said, if anyone's interested in trying to keep up with the legalities of electronic cigarettes, organizations from America and organizations from Europe are working together. So that should, will put everyone's mind at ease a little bit.
Yeah, and I think ECETA working closely with everybody as well, which is wonderful to know. You've got everybody singing from the same hymn book, basically. And that's positive. It's all very positive at the moment. So all we can do is wait and see what all these people, can do to help the situation, and we're all there to support them in any way we can.
Yeah, and plus we've got a lot more, I would say, Hollywood actors that are getting in on it, and a lot more media reporting on their use of electronic cigarettes. Brad Pitt's been doing it. The guy from Titanic, what the heck's his name?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't ask me how I knew that.
I see the poster of him on the back there. And the guy from the Pirate of the Caribbean movies,
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, and he's even in a recent movie, The Tourist. He uses electronic cigarettes in there 3 times. So it's becoming more and more mainstream, and I see this thing within the next 5 years absolutely exploding. And I'm just glad I'm a part of it, at this time, because it's exciting and new.
Yeah.
Catherine Hagler?
Yeah.
She's another name, isn't she? Oh, and Catherine Zeta-Jones is the latest one.
So she showed, that was shocking, the pictures of her smoking after Michael Douglas. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was just my little rant.
No, you're quite right, it was, but apparently she's now got an e-cig.
Good.
And it would be fabulous if, we could get someone like her to stand up and be recognised for UK.
I'd rather have
papers.
Johnny Depp, but...
You cannot have him for the UK.
Well, he lives in France. It's close.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I heard tonight something said about the French were claiming that King Arthur was French because he was born in Wales. Because he was born in Wales, that makes him French.
Makes him French.
And I thought,
That makes you French then, mother.
Aye, yeah. That my Dutch part's gone out the window then, doesn't it?
Yes, and Gary Dibley's pointed, don't forget Dot from EastEnders.
Yeah, everybody has tried to get in touch with her, and she's never come forward,
Yeah.
We could try Catherine Zeta-Jones. Don't quite know how. I don't think she watches. If you do, Catherine. You never know. Anyway, next question.
Right. Next question is a question from Bez, who says, I haven't had a cigarette for 5 months now. If I was filling out a form, say at the doctor's, and it asks smoker or non-smoker, which would I tick?
Right. If you wait another month, Bez, you then can say non-smoker. But less than 6 months after giving up, you're still not a non-smoker according to the National Health Service. That's one I do know because I had this argument.
A lot of forms these days also don't ask for smoker or non-smoker, they ask for nicotine user. Which complicates the issue again.
It complicates it again. I still class myself as a smoker.
Yeah.
Right? And even if I didn't smoke 1 cigarette a day, I would still class myself as a smoker who uses a different method. But, and here's the but, Where it comes to the medical profession and insurance companies, then I'm different. All of a sudden I'm a non-smoker, because I
Yeah.
know all the catches that they would throw at me. You know, what I call myself is one thing, but what I call myself to them is a total other thing.
Mhm.
I mean, I've sort of owned up to my GP and asked questions about vaping and things like that, and the reaction I've got back is really positive, you know, from the GP. But I also know that I have a duty to keep bringing it up, because the more questions I ask and other vapers ask of GPs, even though we probably know better than they do, prompts them to look up the answers as well and learn a bit more about it. Because it's no good sort of talking to your GP and thinking, well, you should know, because why would they? Why would they know the effects of inhaling PG? Why would they know all these things?
Mhm.
They wouldn't. So you're going to spur them on to think, I better look this up. I've had 2 or 3 people asking about this now, and doing a bit of research, because we all know we're better using e-cigs than we were on cigarettes. We can't all be wrong. So we need to teach the medical profession exactly the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it anyway. So did
Yeah,
you
I
want to
agree.
add anything to that, Michael?
Well, it's a big deal over here in the States because we don't have socialized medicine, and if you go get a job with a new employer,
Yeah.
when you fill out the application for health insurance, they'll ask you if you're a smoker or a non-smoker, and depending on what you click, you either pay a certain amount or you pay maybe $20 more a week because you're a smoker. In that aspect, I would click non-smokers. But if they specify that they will be testing for nicotine levels, then you're going to have to click smoker.
Yeah.
Because if you go in for an operation or something and in your blood test or whatever it shows that you have nicotine, that's going to pretty much make your health insurance null and void, and you probably have to pay for the whole operation yourself. That's why I think it's so important that we try to get electronic cigarettes reclassified, you know, as a non-smoker's decision to only inhale nicotine. We're not inhaling all the other 2,000 or 4,000 or 3,000 chemicals.
That's
All
right.
we're inhaling is nicotine, PG or VG or both, and water. You know, so it's something that's probably going to work its way through in the next few years. But you know, people are working on it right now. So, but when you go to the doctor, I would probably click non-smoker, but I would probably tell them what I'm doing just
Yeah.
in case, because the nicotine, they've been doing a lot of experimentation with nicotine for Alzheimer's disease and other areas. And whatever he may prescribe for you may have a direct reaction with nicotine. So I would just say, you know, hey, I'm vaping 18 milligrams of nicotine, blah, 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 and see what he says. He might just not, you know, not even care, but at least make it known to him what you're doing, you know.
That's right. I quite agree. I hope that answers that one. Right, Sav.
Yep.
Next question.
Right, the next question is from Delboy, and it's a question for you, Kat, which is, what do you use to clean the brass on the GG?
Ah, right. Brasso. Simple Brasso is what I've got. And nowadays it's the same company that Duraglit used to be. So it'll either say Duraglit or Brasso on the tin. But it's the wadding is what I use. I know some people use the Cape Cod cloths, but I don't have any. I did have one. I prefer Brasso, so that's what I use. Mine hasn't been cleaned in a while. Where's the camera? But it's still quite shiny, even though it hasn't been cleaned. So it's not bad. Not bad at all. But Brasso's what I use. So there you go. There's the answer to that one.
Excellent.
Next.
I use car wax on my Silver Bullet.
Good idea.
Did we not use chrome wheel cleaner on something? So I'm sure we did.
Probably.
Probably. Yeah.
We probably did, yes. Right, next question is from Gary Dibley, and it's a question for Mighty Mouse, asking, have you tried any UK vendors?
Well, as far as buying any products, no. And as far as like a delivery system or a battery system, I purchased this Silver Bullet last December, and this is it. I mean, I see so many people talk about their different modifications, and whatever makes you happy makes you happy. For me, it's the Silver Bullet. So, and that is actually made about 18 miles from my house in Newark, Ohio. So I'm very happy with the Silver Bullet, and that's what I use. Now, as far as getting anything from the UK, I was a part of a contest a few months ago on the Jez Show, and he was nice enough to send me about 34 different flavors from the UK. Most of them are handwritten, so I don't know if they specifically come from the UK, but I think I have a couple up there that I've been trying. So I really haven't purchased anything because there's so much available here in the States. I have gotten some things out of China, some batteries that have failed on me very badly, and some juice. But the postal rate and everything may keep me from getting some things out of the UK. But I'm always trying different things. So possibly in the future I'll be ordering something. Is there anything that he would recommend as far as e-juice, or you guys could recommend?
Well, UK e-liquid Vermilion River, but it comes from the US.
Yeah, and the only one that I don't know if you have in the US is the Decadent Vapors range.
Ah, yes, of course.
Which are fabulous.
Yeah, they are the absolute piece de resistance. I'm using a lot of French tonight.
Yeah,
it's because of King Arthur. Sheesh, I cannot believe it. Yeah, the Decadent Vapors range, and certainly the Decadent Vapors flavourings, which I really, really like and trust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is the big word for me, trust. So there you go. There's an answer to that one. So, next question, because I think they're flying in, aren't they? So,
well, we're actually running more questions now, so good time to get them answered pretty much straight away. Right, this question is from Rusty, and he says, Flavour Art are doing tests on their flavourings. Should e-liquid vendors specifically tell us who makes the liquid and flavourings?
Well, my opinion on that one is yes, 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 yes. I want to know what's in mine. I did a little experiment a while ago when I first started doing Cat's Kitchen. And what I did was I had some, you know, these tea bags that you get that are fruity. And I had some, I think it was cranberry and raspberry or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, hang on a minute, if I made an infusion of that and, you know, got the liquid, most of the liquid off, and sort of made it quite condensed, would that be a flavouring? And I actually did that, and I mixed it with the juice. And I thought, but I can't tell people to do this, because I don't know if there's anything that should be filtered out that can't be seen by the human eye. And I actually rang Peter Cole, who runs Decadent Vapors, and I asked him about it. And he told me about the processes that they do with their flavourings. And the filter that they use costs thousands and thousands of pounds to make sure that every tiny particle is taken out of that juice, you know. And I thought, that's it, I'm not going to sit and put recipes together for people anymore because I don't know enough, and we haven't got the equipment in which to do it, you know. So I want to know exactly what is in every flavouring that's in every juice for me, because that is still the item that's got the biggest question mark. VG, PG, nicotine, no worries. I don't really have any worries concerning them. I know all the drawbacks, I know the possibilities, I know the risks I'm taking with that. But I don't know what I'm taking with the flavourings. And that concerns me. What do you think, Michael?
I've noticed some U.S. vendors, and it's probably true over there, are testing their flavors, and through independent scientists or whatever, chemical companies. But you're true. I mean, you're right that we do have the material safety data sheets on VG and PG.
Yeah.
And gosh, we've used nicotine since the dawn of man. But the flavorings are what we don't know about. Now, I have another interview coming up with Jason from EC Blend, and I asked him directly, with the concerns with vapors and their mixtures, what does he do? And he tests every vendor that he gets in. He primarily uses natural flavorings. If he can't get a natural flavor, he'll use a combination of natural flavor and artificial flavorings. He's always on the websites. He's watching the news clips. He's trying to gather as much information as possible to make sure that his customers are getting the best quality juice. So I'm glad that vendors are out there looking out for us. And I tell you, this strawberry juice that he sent me is 0 nicotine. Oh my! Have you ever sat in a field of strawberries and sliced open a strawberry? And with 0 nic, I've been licking the cap, you know. But I don't want to ruin the review that I'm going to be doing on it. But yeah, you're right. But like I said, a lot of U.S. vendors are testing their products now, and I think that's only going to reassure their customers that they're interested in selling the best product that they can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Rusty made a point in chat saying, if we are told that tap water is not good enough to vape, why do we trust flavouring?
Well, he's quite right.
Yeah.
I mean, do we trust that tap water is safe enough to drink? Sometimes you turn the tap on and the smell of chlorine hits you immediately.
Overpowering.
You know, and you think, drink that. You've got to be joking. So, no, and unfortunately, this is something that's backfired a bit in a way, because when we were smoking, all of us, the governments, the various governments, either in the US or wherever, did their level best to frighten the life out of it as to what cigarettes can do. And we're not idiots. We took all that information in, and out of awkwardness, I wouldn't give up. I was just being awkward. I give up when I want. Nobody tells me what to do. And that sort of made me stand my ground a little bit more, to be honest. But since when I started vaping, it was the first question I asked is, but what is in this stuff? What am I taking into my lungs? And it was all because of that. They made me question for 43 years, I just lit up cigarettes and thought it was just smoke, you know?
Yeah.
And nicotine, I didn't know there was 4,000 chemicals in there.
Again, Rusty's saying in chat, natural or organic flavours don't tell you what the chemicals are. And Delboy saying, what's the big deal with natural flavours? Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe.
That's right. And that's what
Yeah.
worried me with the tea bags.
Well,
You know?
the one thing that, I mean, they've done studies on PG and VG, of course, and they know what the heat, what happens when it vaporizes and stuff. But with natural flavorings, you may use the same flavoring that you put in a cake mix, let's say, but when you add heat to that, like the coil of an atomizer, does that change the chemical composition of the flavoring? So in one instance, it may be good to eat, but in another instance, it may have a different reaction when it turns to vapor. But I would say if you're not smoking cigarettes anymore and you're away from 4,000 different chemicals, believe me, vaping is 99.9% better for you, you know, in that aspect. You have to call your vendors. They love to talk. I've got vendors, I can't even get off the phone when I call them. They just want to keep on talking. Find out where they're getting their flavorings. Find out, you know, what they do to make sure that you're getting the best product available. See if they've done any testing or have their suppliers done testing. That's the best thing you can do. Keep in contact with your vendor, and like I said, they're more than willing to tell you about their business and what they're selling. So that's what I'd recommend.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you find quite the same in the UK. A lot of them, it's taken an awful lot of persuasion to get some to even tell us if it's decan juice that you know that they're selling. They don't really want to give away their secrets, and I can understand that. I can understand that, but we do need to know, because we've all been versed on these 4,000 chemicals, you know, to the point we can practically name them. You know, we've had that drilled into us, and we don't want to be doing even 2,000 of something else because it's got a question mark. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Delboy has said, one could argue that a chemically designed flavour, especially designed for vaping, would be safer.
It could be, yeah. Because I've now got to the point that I'm sort of reducing the amount of flavouring I'm using, rather than so that I get a hint of the flavour. And don't get me wrong, you know, if I pick up a juice and I smell it and it goes, oh my God, fabulous. I'm desperate to use it, to vape it, but I'm frightened to. Now, I'm going to interrupt this because this lot all need to go into the corner.
Oh, I've given up trying to get them in the corner of the conversation. It's been ridiculous.
The conversation in the chat room.
We don't have enough corners.
And no matter what we do, they get out of hand in that chat room.
Yeah, we just don't have enough corners in the chat room, I'm sorry. We need naughty steps and a full flight of stairs.
We do. We do. How they got onto mammary glands, I'll never know.
You don't want to know.
No, I don't want to know. Dear me. Right. We're nearly at the end of the show, so we haven't got much time left. So
well, I've got two more questions, so that should take me nicely to the end. Another question for Mighty Mouse from Gary Dibley. What is your all-day vape?
My all-day vape is RY4, and my backup is cinnamon rolls. Currently, I have. Look at that. I think it's 15 milliliters of cinnamon rolls. But I do have some specialized juices, some special RY4 that I keep in the safe and only comes out for special occasions. But I would say RY4 is my all-day vape. I'm I, I'm not really much of a flavor guy. Yeah, I do like good flavor. I mean, I don't want to vape dog poop, you know. But as far as vaping for me, I like to be able to bite into the cigarette, not the cigarette. I like to bite into the vape. I love the throat hit, and if whatever I'm using is producing a great throat hit, that's the winner for me. So, but RY4 is my main vape.
So many people love our Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And what would you say yours is then, Kat?
What, my favourite vape?
Your main all-day vape?
Well, it used to be Apple. But at the moment I'm on a coconut ice trail.
Definitely coconut ice.
Yeah, I mean, I used to vape Apple during the day, but it's got to be, no, it's not a Granny Smith. It's more of, it's got to be a deeper, denser flavour than that. And I think what happened with me is I had a problem. Oh, DV didn't have any Apple. And I love their Apple because it when you vape it, you feel as though you're vaping the tree along with it. You know, it's got one hell of a hit and it's gorgeous. And they ran out. Totally Wicked ran out of it. And I tried Apple from about 5 or 6 different sources. And it all tasted like acetone to me. I just didn't like it. You know, pear drops?
Mm-hmm.
And that put me off for quite a while. And I went on to my coconut ice, which was my nighttime vape. But at the moment, I've never made any more Apple for those reasons. But I have got some more, and I'm getting to the point now. When I vape a flavour too long, my taste buds no longer can taste it, and that's
Yes.
happening with the coconut. I don't know. Do you guys find that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you've got to change, haven't you?
Let
Yeah.
me ask you. Let me ask you a question on that coconut ice. Does it taste the same way copper tone tanning lotion smells? Because I love coconut, and I wish I could vape the copper tone. I don't know if you guys get copper tone over there, but the sun tanning lotion has a coconut smell. Oh my gosh, that's to die for.
Right.
It is very coconutty, the coconut ice, but when you make it up yourself, you can obviously make it as strong or as weak as you want. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and I like to add a little bit of, I think you can, I'll just go over the other screen. I think you might just be able to see my cat washing herself in front of everybody.
I can.
She's decided she's going to come and join us. I like to add a little bit of raspberry or something like that because I like to be able to taste the bar of coconut ice. And that's actually what it tastes like. But after a little while, you can't taste the coconut. And all you're getting is the menthol. So I'm going to go back over to make some apple. The next lot I make, I'll make some apple. And then I put loads of ethyl maltol in. Because I love the smell. And that's RY4 to blame for that. Right, we've got one more question, I believe, Sarah.
One more question, and it's a question for you from Roadhog. The question is, Kat, will you be handing in Sav and Mighty Mouse for the reward? And if so, how many Darwins will you buy on your luxury world cruise?
If I could, I would. Believe you me. How many Darwins would I buy? Well, I wouldn't. I've got one. I wouldn't need any more. What would I buy? It would have to be an Eclipse. When I get it sorted, it would have to be an Eclipse. My curiosity is killing me over this Eclipse.
Well, one thing on the Eclipse, I really don't want to get into Digital Sig's business too much, but they had to change the name to the EQ
Yeah, sorry.
because
the
apparently
EQ.
somebody had already copyrighted the Eclipse, so they're in the middle of that right now. And the other day, the Vapor Mist had said that the EQ was on a recall. I talked to Michael out there, and then again, I don't want to get too much into their business. I just want to defend him that they make a very, very high quality product, and he did find some issues with the EQ, and he went ahead and sent all the owners emails, and he requested that they all send their units back if they were
Yeah.
failing or not in that particular issue, because he wants to make sure that the money that they spent, they're getting the product that they wanted. So
Yeah.
kudos to Mike and vendors like that want to make sure that their customers are completely 110% satisfied. So
Totally agree. I read the thread, and I thought that was really, him doing a really good job there. Where I stand on that is I did ask, to be put on the list, and I was offered one on pre-order. And at the time, like everything else, I was hard up, and that's normal. And I couldn't afford it. And I had to say I'd bypass it. And I'm glad I did, because for me it would have meant sending it back to the States.
yeah.
If I was in the States, fine. But it's still very much on my wanted list. So
Well,
I'd be having one of them.
Yeah, he took so much product development. I think it was like a year or two before he even offered it for sale. So, but with anything, a car, a blender, whatever, if it's the new first issue, I would personally sit back and wait and see what the second batch brings. So, but I just wanted to say that about
Absolutely, that's what I will do. Bez, you're asking, is there any animals that Cat hasn't got, and have I considered ferrets? I haven't considered ferrets, but I did have 22 chipmunks. You forgot about the chipmunks.
I forgot about the 22 chipmunks.
Yes. Most of them female and most of them pregnant. And were they my choice? No. I work for Cat Protection, and we tend to deal with all sorts, but we work with the RSPCA. And as a result, if they get a call where there's something big going down and they need help, they give us a shout. And I ended up with 22 chipmunks. And another, I had a duck and ducklings. And that went down well with the cats. They were terrified of them.
What was the bird you had in the bath?
That was a guillemot.
The guillemot, yes.
I had him in the bath for 3 months till he was waterproof. And I broke my heart. I sat and sobbed, do you remember, at the water's edge? And put this bird in the water, and the damn thing never looked back. I was broken hearted.
Because he didn't turn round.
I thought he would turn round, he was off. So the answer is, we'll have all sorts. Where we used to live, it was right beside a lighthouse, and there was a bay down there, and I got brought all sorts of things that were washed up. So I had all sorts, and I work, not so much this year, I haven't done much, but I work with a SEAL unit. We do all sorts, because my big love in life is animal welfare. So a lot of these animals do end up staying, those that can. Wild animals, no, try and let them loose. But I do have feral cats here. So I'm not a particular cat lover. I just like animals. So I hope that answers your question on that one. So is there anything we've missed?
I like them mostly deep fried.
Aye, well, they go down canny that way as well. So I think I'll give the ferrets a miss, Bears. I'll give them a miss, pet. Chipmunks were fun, but bloody hell when you had to catch them.
Oh, God, they were fast.
And they were always at it. Although I shouldn't be saying that in there, should I?
No,
They're bad
don't
enough without
include.
me saying that.
Mhm.
Anyway, we've run over time, guys and girls.
Wow.
So,
no 2 hours.
yeah, it's all gone. The time is gone. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I
Yep.
hope you two have enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me.
No, thank you both. And I know everybody was hoping to ask questions of Gary, and bless his heart, he came in to chat there. So I'm sure, you know, if they had anything important, they could have asked him and he would have answered. But he will be back. I promise you that. He will be back. Other than that, all I have to do is to thank my guests very much for helping me out tonight on VT Chat. It's been brilliant. I hope we've made some sense. I hope we've talked some sense. Because that would be very unusual for me if I have. And I just want to say a great big good night and a great big thanks to every single one of you. Yous have been total stars. Now I'm going to have a look and see if I can find the VT to play out. And remember, tomorrow night, here's our pre-record, and I think Keith's on it. I think he is, so be there. Catch you later. Night night, everybody. Night night.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
I told you it would be.
I'm glad I can bullshit my way through that thing.
Wasn't that bad, was it? Steve Mack said he enjoyed it.
Everyone, thank you.